If you follow us on the Genius Not Brewing video, you might have already seen a video where we made bread using beer yeast. Now we're gonna take bread and make beer, also using the same yeast. That'll be pretty fun.
It is, yeah, and making beer with bread is a really fun process. You get some really cool stuff out of it. You get a great bunch of mouthfeel. You get some of that nice tart, sour flavor from it all.
And it's a time-honored tradition, as old as the day is long. That's a real
Dang right.
saying.
It is. I mean, those Russians, man, they've been making kvass for a long, long time, and this is kind of a unique take on that tradition.
So what we'll be getting off of bread is a lot of the maturity of the flavor that goes into making the individual breads itself. So it adds a depth of character, which is one of the fun things about making, especially when you own a bakery, beer with bread yeast, or bread, because it's always different.
Yeah, well, and you know, a lot of these breads have different things added. Like, you know, we got some rolled oats on some, we've got seeds throughout. Some of these are enriched doughs, so they have a little bit of butter in them. Mm-hmm. You know, you get a wide variety of things that go into this. Not to mention, you have some burnt bits of crust on the end, so like you're gonna get a lot of different flavors and different pieces to it. Not to mention, you know, you have some that are pretty light with some wider flours. Some that are pretty dark with darker red wheats. So you really do get a wide range of flavors and colors and different things that go into it.
So with all those extra proteins, I like to kind of go through a longer brewing process. Overall, we kind of start the same way. We get our grist, which we'll put our grist recipe over our faces right now, so you can just read what we're throwing into this one. Then we throw it in. I always like to throw mine into a lower mashing temperature. But then, especially with all this extra adjunct in there, I like ramp mashing so I can get a little bit more enzyme conversion too. With that enzyme, we also like to do some extra enzyme additions in all our mashes. So we like to do OptiMash and ViscoBuster, just a little bit of ways to break down the beta-glucans and the extra protein gumminess that can be in bread.
Other than that, we're just gonna do a pretty normal boil with this. It's gonna be framed kind of like a Saison farmhouse, right? Mm-hmm. Just run it as normal and then, you know, add that yeast, ferment it off, and see how it turns out. We
will be fermenting warm to get some extra character off the yeast. I think with all the extra complexity we need from the bread, it's just gonna kind of complement it and help it build.
It's really gonna just layer on top of each other and end up being pretty unique and delicious.
Yeah. All that said, let's go ahead and get to this. So, I don't know, just whoever's editing this, cut to us brewing.
Alright, so we're done with the mash. Time to get our spar going on here. It's looking beautiful. Really hoping the rice holes in there make it so we don't get a stuck spar, because we got a lot of wheat plus those bread crust in there are going to make this super gummy. Enzyme should help, but hopefully rice holes do their job. Alright, here we are. Liquid's coming through, wart's coming into this, and it smells amazing. I wish you could smell the bread crust coming off of that. This color is insane. All that crystal wheat going in there, along with the bread crust themselves, are making this thing look amazing. Like, you guys got to get your head in there. satisfaction.
So it has been an undisclosed amount of time, and we've got the final product. We went with an Egyptian feel and an elongated mash, all the stuff that we said we were going to go into to kind of really maximize the flavor we're going to get off of this beer, or the bread that we used. Yeah. And in addition, there was a handful of Egyptian spices that Tim talked about. So.
Oh, like the smell on it.
So there's some distinct tartness, as well as like a lot of the barnyardy farmhouse-ness going on.
Yeah, but it's not unpleasant. Like, it's really, wow.
It's got a lot of fun going on to it. I'm trying to think of what all I get off of the bread. I think I get a little bit more earthiness, like some high protein kind of quality.
The feel is pretty, like, it's thick. Like, it's kind of mouth coating in a nice way. It's not, yeah, it does not feel thin. What's the ABV?
5.25%.
Oh, man.
So it definitely has a lot of fullness to it. And I think the fact that it's thick really helps out, especially with the acidity already being there. Yes. So
I feel like I'm consuming like 6 different fermented items at once. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. you get sourdough, you get kombucha, you get like tart beer, you get spice, like it's everything. It's all the way around. You almost get like, you get some sauerkraut, like you get so much going on. So many different like types of fermented feels to me come through this. That's really interesting.
I feel like I could see myself tasting this in like an old world style Egyptian marketplace.
Absolutely.
Like it just kind of feels like it fits that vibe for me.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool. That was a great direction I think that Tim went with that. I think it was super smart, and I think it leads into the interestingness of all the bread.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, and it's beautiful too.
Uh-huh. So I think the one question we've got to answer is, do we taste any similarities between the bread that we tasted, that we cooked, and the fermentation that the beer had with the same yeast?
I mean, definitely. I do think that there are similarities there. I mean, I can taste some of that bread. I mean, bread just ferments a little bit differently than beer, and I get that flavor to it. I get that sort of, like, yeah, that little bit of, I mean, I think it's just part of that barnyard piece to it, but it has that sourdough bread fermented flavor to it.
Yeah. I think if we went back and redid another bread, I think we need to try to culture some more of the same maturity that came out of this yeast in the beer, because obviously that took a lot longer, into the bread. Maybe doing several generations, kind of like a sourdough.
I mean, yeah, you could even pull the yeast trub out of the bottom of the beer and make a bread with it. It'd be really, really fascinating to see how that is, using like a freshly, a fresh culture of yeast from a beer to do that.
All right, well, thanks so much, Teddy from the Grain Shed, and everybody that was involved at the Grain Shed for getting us some bread and making some awesome beer happen. Follow them on social media, Instagram and TikTok and OnlyFans and all that. Follow us on social media. We only have a YouTube channel, and that's it. So follow that. Follow Ryan on social media, too. This whole thing came about from Patrick Sandy. Patrick Sandy donated by buying an item that we needed off of our Amazon wish list. That list is below if you want to support us the same way and then suggest future videos. Please do that. And all the other things that are down there. Super Friends, swag merch, things like that. Come to the store and buy beer. Come to their store and buy bread and beer.